Culture Yearbook. On this show, we pick pieces of pop culture that were important to us in a given year. We then discuss our memories and dig into those movies, albums, shows, and more. I'm Brad.
I am Pete.
And I'm Geoff.
Pete didn't see what was going on there, but we're going to leave it in because he loves that stuff.
Yes,
I can cut that out easily. It's at the
But you're not
beginning.
gonna.
It's very easy. I may as well. I have to leave it in now.
All right. Yeah, we've spoken.
I just kept talking.
All right. So you might as well keep talking because you picked the topic for tonight, Pete.
All right. The movie that I picked for tonight is I think Jim Carrey's probably his best movie. That's a real movie. That's not just like goofball comedy.
It's a real movie, a real Hollywood movie.
Well, you know what? It's a real Hollywood movie. And because and I'll go into this a little bit in my synopsis, but it's kind of a mixture. I'm not sure what genre I would put this under, or what it's classified as. Is it a comedy? Is it a drama? It's a little of both, and it is one that does make you think kind of deeply about the world around you. And,
and ahead of its time.
There's some lines I didn't put in my synopsis, but I am going to bring up that that really do make you think about how why the world is the way it is sometimes. And it's just a really great movie, start to finish. I think it's a really original screenplay. I have not. I can't think of another movie that has the same kind of plot as this movie does.
Well, didn't the movie Ed TV come out like 1 year later?
I guess I haven't seen it. I don't remember it. Okay. I knew you were gonna prove me wrong, but that would make if it came out 1 year later.
Yeah, this was first.
This one, the original one, then.
Yeah.
So there you go.
But there was one called Ed TV, and I only saw it once in the theater, so I don't remember all the details. But it was like this, where he was on, and it was more of a comedy. It wasn't as serious, but he was on TV all day, all the time. Like it was a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Did he know it?
Yeah, I think he knew it, and that was part of the big difference.
There's a big difference. Okay.
Right.
As far as like when I saw the movie the first time, I think I had just at home decided to rent it or something. I don't remember actually going to see it in the theater, but I had heard about it, and I honestly didn't know anything about the storyline going into it. You know, I'd heard of it and everything. I didn't know really what it was about. I think this movie is better that way, because then it kind of creeps up on you throughout the movie and you really don't know what's going on. And then you kind of slowly figure it out along with them that way. But just a really fascinating and wonderful movie. Gifford, what say you?
So I'm with you, Pete. I don't remember going to this in the theater, but I remember watching this for the first time and expecting, The Mask, the, Dumb and Dumber of comedy. And you get into this movie and it's all of a sudden like, oh, this motherfucker's acting. Like this is not what he's done before. And he does such a phenomenal job. Like you said, this movie makes you think. At this point in our lives, reality TV is a thing. There's Road Rules and Real World is on MTV, and you start to see the public's fascination with reality TV. And this show takes that concept to, its furthest conclusion of, what if we had reality television, but there's a person that has no idea that he's on a reality show? It's a different take on it, and it's just absolutely great. The actors in it are wonderful. The concept is thought-provoking, and Jim Carrey just takes his career to a whole different place with this dramatic. Yeah, like you said, Pete, there's some funny stuff in there, but this is his first dramatic role. I mean, he's coming off of Liar Liar in 97. He did Cable Guy in 96, Batman Forever in 95, and then of course his massive year in 94 with The Mask, Ace Ventura, and Dumb and Dumber. So I don't think a lot of people were expecting this from Jim Carrey, and he did a masterful job.
He sure did, and we'll come back to that in a minute. I'm surprised you guys didn't see it or didn't like seem like you didn't really know what it was before you saw it, because I remember the hype about this movie, and I was so excited to see it, and I knew what it was about, and that it was like a different type of role. But I apparently don't remember who I went with very well, because I always thought in my head that I saw this movie with my girlfriend in college, but we were not together at this time when this movie came out. We were long done. So I don't know who I was with. I must have been with some friends, and for some reason I just had that in my head. But I saw it at the Mall of America movie theater and just loved it the first time I saw it so much, and thought, this is for sure going to be, as you said, he took his range to a whole new level, and Jim Carrey will be up for an Oscar, and that's going to be so cool. And have we talked on this show about actors in comedies not getting credit for what they do, and how ridiculous it is that they never get recognized for anything? And so maybe he wasn't going to win the Oscar, but it was like, seemed a certainty that he would be nominated for Best Actor. And the nominees came out, and he wasn't.
Right.
So you mentioned 3 Oscar nominees. Maybe that was before we got on, but Ed Harris got a nod, and yeah, he's good. But I mean, come on, that's Best Supporting Actor.
He
did
doesn't
not
carry
win.
the movie.
No, and I don't even know if he's that great. He's fine. Peter Weir, who's a famous director, he was nominated for Best Director, and then it was also a screenplay nominee. But Jim Carrey, nowhere to be found. So here's who was up for it that year. And I think we should also keep in mind that this was a year where the Oscars were just all kinds of stupid. So, do you remember what won Best Picture and what everybody thought would win it? I think we brought it up last week. Yeah, we brought it up last week, I think.
I can't recall.
Well, Saving Private Ryan was expected by everybody that it would win.
Okay.
And, it's your typical Oscar-type great movie.
Oh, and it was
Shakespeare in Love.
Shakespeare
in Love, which is a nice movie. Like, I don't hate it. I liked it fine, but come on. But Edward Norton was up, American History X. I picked that last week. I have no problem with that one. That's a great choice. Tom Hanks was up for Saving Private Ryan. Roberto Benigni won for Life is Beautiful. And where is Roberto Benigni now? I mean, that was a cute movie. I mean, it was interesting and different. And he got up and humped the world on the Oscars when he won.
I want to make love to every one of you. Something like that.
Come on. I don't think anybody thought he would win. And the other two, Ian McKellen of Gods and Monsters and Nick Nolte of Affliction. Never seen either of those. You can't tell me they did a better job than Jim Carrey in this movie. I will never believe it. I don't care what. But so, considering what won Best Picture, clearly everything was done. And this is where they were, Miramax, they were all starting to buy the Oscars, was the big, hype around it. But as you said, anyway, it was such an interesting concept. It was so ahead of its time. There was reality TV, but like, this is before Survivor and before like the networks really took off with it. It's really amazing to think that this came out and was a thing, and then what we led to later on. And it is so deep, and it's fun to watch, and it's cute at first and everything, but as it goes on, it is so deep. It is one of these movies. This is a great movie. Again, I brought up last week, movies I'd like to teach in class. This would be such a great movie to talk about the themes and compare it to stuff today, and it's so great, and it's timeless.
Yeah, and I also look at it as a jailbreak movie. He's in a prison, and he needs to figure out how to break free from that prison. I think it's interesting because you see him come to the realization, and then also plan his escape, which was very dramatic as well. So excellent, fun couple different ways to look at. I
have a question. So when you watch this, like, there's a huge crowd. Maybe it's not a big crowd actually that watches it, but it feels like it's supposed to be, and they're all so into it. Do you think this would really be something that people would love and watch like that? Because it would be so much down, boring time. Really?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not saying no. I'm asking for real. So.
I think there's the people out there that would absolutely. Now, you're not going to watch it, every second of the day, but I think there would be shows based around it, like a Talk Soup they would have maybe like a weekly show with the highlights of, or maybe a daily, show showing the highlights of yesterday or whatever. Yeah, I think people would definitely watch this. I think it would, supplant a lot of people's viewing during the day. The ones that watch soap operas, might
just throw it on. So
might just like to have that on. Yeah, I think it's background, and then if something big happens, you turn around and pay attention. So
it would captivate the nation as it's building to its big conclusion. Then that's when everybody would be glued to it for sure.
But then think about it. He's like what, 30 some years old?
He's just shy of 30.
So it's been on for 30 some years. It's not like people just discovered it. Do you think they would get sick of it by? I don't know.
I think people would get attached. Just throwing out questions. I think people would get attached, Jim, because the last note I wrote on this was, I get a little sad when a show that I've been watching, is done, or even like a season of a show, and now you gotta, find something else. Like when Ted Lasso ended, like it was like, oh my God, that's, that was what, 30 episodes, 28 episodes, something. Think about if you watched a show for 30 years, watched a human being literally grow up in front of you, and all of a sudden now that's gone. Like that would be, I think for some people would be, pretty traumatizing.
There would be people that view him as one of their own best friends because he is a part of their lives. Because they're watching him and they know him better than they know their own family.
Let me ask one more question.
Yes, sir.
So do you think that they could get a...
It's okay.
Do you think they could get away with it today? Maybe they couldn't even then. Like adopting and putting a guy on where everybody watching knows that he doesn't know. Would there be people that would just go nuts and like shut this down and like?
Well, there were in the movie. That was
they mentioned a couple like protests, but
there were protests, and in fact, his main love interest is one of the protesters, and that's how she kind of breaks in. But I do think that there would be serious ethical controversies surrounding that for sure.
There's massive ethical controversies in here. I mean, they kill his dad in order to make him have a fear of water so they can keep him contained for all of these years. I mean, that's serious trauma to put on a kid.
I'm glad you brought up ethics because this won't apply to you, but we in school, we teach this book. We just finished a book called Flowers for Algernon, which is a classic from the 60s. Maybe you've even heard of it. Some listeners will. But it's where they took this guy who had a 68 IQ and tripled his intelligence and like did a surgery on his brain. He becomes a genius and he's just the same problem at the other end of the spectrum. And we talk about all the ethical issues with how could he even give his consent? How could he even understand what was going to happen? And what did the doctors do to him? And as I'm watching this movie, because we're reading it at the same time, I'm like, that's doctors doing something to him, but it's very, very similar. Like I could totally show this and connect it to that story. I wish I could do that. But that's a classic old story with ethical issues that are similar to this. And like I said, again, it's that timeless feel. This movie's 25 years old, but it's like this could have come out this year.
And part of it is that in his world, it's 1950-ish. I mean, they got I Love Lucy on the television. I mean, the way his wife dresses as a nurse, and just around the house, it has a 1950s feel to it.
I think it's more of just a perfect society. It's just everybody's just perfect and nice, and nothing ever goes wrong.
Right.
I like how you started your statement there, Brad. By let's talk about ethics. This doesn't apply to you guys.
Is that how it came out?
Yeah,
I think that was right on the money then.
Yes. I'm not protesting that statement.
Why don't I go through my synopsis here, and then we'll continue this discussion. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, here's what I wrote. The Truman Show is a thought-provoking comedy dramedy that takes reality TV to a whole new level and allows paranoid schizophrenics everywhere to say, "See, I told you so." This film centers around Truman Burbank, an average 30-something leading a seemingly ordinary life, complete with a routine job and marriage. We are introduced to his cheerful personality as he greets his neighbors and goes on about his day every day. His greatest aspiration is to travel to Fiji, but his deep-seated fear of water prevents him from traveling off the island. That, combined with the bizarre efforts of those around him to try to prevent him from chasing that dream. These efforts range from orchestrating traffic jams to a travel agent instilling fear of journeying abroad. As the story unfolds, we learn about Truman's past, including a pivotal moment when he fell in love with Sylvia, a woman who abruptly disappeared from his life. She reappears briefly for a romantic encounter on the beach, only to be abruptly taken away by a man claiming to be her father, who says she is being sent to Fiji. Gradually, Truman becomes increasingly aware of the peculiar nature of his world. He discovers that he is the star of the most elaborate reality show ever conceived, living in a vast dome where every aspect of his environment and relationships is fabricated. The only genuine element in his life is his love for Sylvia, and it is this love that fuels his determination to escape his artificial world. Braving a ferocious storm, he risks everything to find her, even facing death. His journey culminates into a dramatic climax where he reaches the literal edge of his world, encountering a wall that marks the boundary of the set. Truman's final act of defiance and liberation provides a powerful ending to both the show within the movie and the movie itself as he exits the stage with a memorable farewell.
Awesome.
Nicely done.
He speaking of the ethics again there, that scene at the end where he basically is trying to kill him. It's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Would there be
This
a more
is where it's
satisfying character death, to talk about what we did a couple weeks ago, than if somebody would have just killed Christoph right there?
Well,
If
and
they
the
had
thing
killed him.
that drove me nuts is when they're doing that exclusive interview with Christoph,
Yeah.
and he makes the comment that if Truman makes a concerted effort to leave, he can.
Yeah. Right.
So basically, we're not holding him here. He can go whenever he wants, but then when he gets wise to what's going on and he's trying to sail away, Christoph literally tries to kill him. I mean, brings a storm onto the ship and,
I hope
turns the
I hope in
wind
the
up.
aftermath he was sent to jail.
Well, and he made the comment, the exec makes the comment, you're going to kill him. And Christoph's answer is he was conceived on camera. He could die on camera.
Yeah. Put him
It's like,
away.
oh my God.
He's so driven by ratings and money that he was willing. Now, think of the protests that would have ensued if he had actually died as he was, trying to make his way across that water.
Right.
Like then, I mean,
I think.
Would he be accused of murder? I mean, he would have been thrown in jail.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
Absolutely.
But I'm going to disagree with you on one thing there a little bit. I don't think he was driven by money and ratings. I think this show has become, like with some of the watchers, you said, it's his whole life, and he has nothing without this show. And I don't even know if he cares about the money anymore, but he needs Truman and he needs this show because that is his purpose. And I think he just got too caught up in that.
Well, and I know we're talking about the end of the show here, but one of the lines that kind of explains, or emphasizes what Brad just says is when he starts talking to Truman and Truman asks, "Who are you?" And his response is, "I'm the creator." And there's a slight pause before he continues on with his sentence of a television show. So he sees himself as God of this show. I am the creator of a television show.
He wants to control him so badly that he makes him basically believe that he is his God. There's a lot of religious elements to this too, to the movie, when you think of it that way. The one line that I had written down that really stood out, that makes you think about society and think about like how things are in different parts of the world even, and how maybe like terrorist groups and super ultra religious groups are formed. The line that stands out to me is, "We accept the realities with which we are presented." And so if this is all you ever knew, and you were not allowed to experience anything else, that's what you are going to accept is the way. And so I think that's why, it explains a lot, really, when you think about like how people can just be raised from birth all the way up to believing whatever they believe. And I don't want to pick out any one particular religion.
Right.
Every religion has its facets that are like this.
I think you should pick a religion right now, Pete, and say it's the right one.
This is the one. This is the one right religion.
Well, and the other thing I love in this show is you see throughout like him growing up and him having interests that don't align with him being on the show anymore. And for example, like one of them, he stands up, he must be maybe in like 7th grade. And he stands up, he goes, I want to be an explorer like Magellan. And his teacher turns around, pulls a map down and goes, well, you're too late. Everything's already been discovered.
That is such a good one. And then you brought up the travel agency too. Those things, he goes in and sits down and there's a sign of a plane being hit by lightning. It could happen to you in the travel agent's office. Those things are they are hilarious.
Right. It talks about terrorism, and all these
Too late.
all these things about just keeping him bottled up and dissuading him from doing anything that he really wants to do outside of the schedule that they've made for him.
And the travel agent wants nothing to do with selling any travel to him, which is the travel agent's only job.
That's funny too, though, because a lot of the people in the show don't know what they're doing. Like, it's not their real job. The scene where they're going to do surgery and the doctors are just standing there dumbfounded, like, what are we supposed to do? That's hilarious.
Or the ferry boat drivers. The guy's like, I don't know how to run this. I'm an actor. Like, how am I supposed to? And they've never had to have anybody run the ferry because he's never going to get on it and use it.
I did feel like some of that was a little bit not believable though too, because I mean they have to have like doctors there. Somebody's got to take care of Truman, and like there must be people. So you'd think they would have people in the roles as the actors that actually kind of do know what they're doing, or they would have learned it after 30 years.
But he's never gone to the hospital, probably, or very rarely does.
Maybe not. We don't know, right? He's lived in this perfect place. So,
and the thing that I really question a lot of, and it's the private moments. Like, I mean, this kid grew up in front of the cameras. He hit puberty. He's alone in his room at night.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work? And then
that's why that is.
I really hope that I'm not on this show. Like everybody's not watching me 24 hours.
Right.
It's like that's where it is a little bit just unbelievable, because you couldn't show somebody 24 hours a day. Like there's too many things that people do and don't, and there's too many private things that people that just it wouldn't quite work. You'd have to figure out some alternative to put on and be able to constantly be ready for whatever. Because like they brought up like when he would be with his wife and the guys are like, yeah, but you never see anything. They always go to like some weird angle or something.
But that's the other question I have. So this starts on day 10,909. So he's almost 30 years old. So Laura Linney, who plays his wife, and again, great actress, she does a phenomenal job in this movie. So has he never had sex? Because I mean, she's an actress. She's not his wife. Like, so she's not just, is that in her contract? She has to have sex with
that's
Truman?
A good question, because it kind of seems like they would have at some point at first, but then when things start to go wrong, you see how she's really like detached from him in real life, and it's like, well, so that's a really good question. We should probably just stop talking about all the sex stuff because it's not going to happen.
Well,
I mean,
no, but
there's no answer to it. There's no way to do it. So.
There's a lot of things that you just kind of wonder about, and he lives on this island. You see, from the moon control room, like this is a very small footprint of a town, and this is where he lives his life. Like he's never gone outside of this place.
The questions are interesting because it's like if they were to try to do this for real, you would imagine like, well, how would you do that, and what questions would you have to figure out in a real show like this, which you've brought up some good ones,
right?
Especially when they're teenagers.
I do want to bring up, because I think it's important, the character names. So Truman Burbank is his name, of course, and it's because he is the true man.
True man. Yep.
And his and Burbank being, of course, what you think of when you think of Burbank is the studios and everything, and so that's kind of the name they gave him. And Meryl, his wife, the first thing you think of is Meryl Streep, who is an actress, and so that's like saying, okay, he's the true man, and she's the actress.
I have never thought of the
Mhm.
actress name or the characters' names before. That's fascinating to me.
That's what I thought of that when I was looking up the.
Well, Gifford was nodding
during the
along
movie.
like it was common knowledge, so I think you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Did the other
Now-
characters have names, like his best friend?
The-
What was his name?
The other
Marlon.
one,
They were just normal names.
I think so, but the other one that does, and I'm looking up the character names. I think that Sylvia, did she have two names? It was
Yeah, I was
Sylvia
gonna
and
ask
She
Lauren,
was
because
Lauren.
her
She
name
was
is
Lauren on
Lauren.
the show.
And on IMDb, it
Okay.
was Lauren as well. But then he called her
yeah.
Sylvia, and I went to Kim because we watched together. Did he just call her Sylvia? And she was confused too.
Yeah, her name,
yeah.
her
So
real
Sylvia
name.
/ Lauren is the same
Her
person.
real name is Sylvia. Her
That's what I
actress
figured.
Name.
But
is
I was curious because on IMDb, usually they would show both names then, but it just said Lauren. So I was like, what the hell?
So her name is Lauren Garland,
On
and
the
I
show.
wonder if it's like Lauren Bacall and Judy Garland or something like that.
Oh.
I don't know, but that is her name, Lauren Garland.
And
I'm
his
looking at.
friend's name is Marlon?
Yeah.
So clearly the
Oh, that
great
could be
actor
Marlon
Marlon.
Brando.
I was going to say Marlon Wayans.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I would think if they're going with classic actors,
But you're right,
guessing
Marlon
that
Brando. It does all
Marlon
come
Brando
together.
would make
Well,
more sense.
And Christoph, if you're going to go with the, the creator,
Christ.
Christ right in there, So yeah,
Oh.
I think we're onto something here.
Yeah.
A couple other people. So we mentioned some of the cast. So his friend is played by Noah Emmerich, who for me is best known from one of my favorite movies, Beautiful Girls.
Sure.
I know him from. You fuck with me. You fuck with you.
I know him from The Americans.
The Americans, yeah.
Oh
that's
yeah,
right.
right. That's
He's the FBI agent.
And also from the movie Miracle. With
Well, I know
he's the assistant coach.
Yep. Yeah.
Natasha McElhone plays Sylvia. And I didn't write down what she's in, but I know she's in a few other things. She was kind of bigger at the time.
I knew her from Californication.
Okay. But then there's two that I forgot were in it and are part of the the studio. So Paul Giamatti shows up at the end, which I didn't really remember that.
Well, he's in a couple, not just at the end. He's in a couple of times throughout the movie too.
Right. Yeah. But then Philip Baker Hall is the exec, and he's great and everything. He's in Magnolia, but most famously Gifford for
Bookman.
Bookman from Seinfeld.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
one of the best scenes of all time. So lots of good actors, and they all did a wonderful job. And Jim Carrey got screwed. I'll say it again.
Yeah, completely.
Another thing, we talked about the ending, but also right off the bat with the opening scene, I love the music in this movie. The score it fits so well. It's so it's part of what makes you so emotional at the end. The music is just awesome. I can't describe it. You have to watch the movie. It's just perfect.
Well, and
that could have been up for an award too, in my opinion.
When you talk about the music at the end of the movie, when he's in the rowboat or in the sailboat, and all of a sudden he's just sailing, and the first time you see this movie, you don't see the edge of the set, right?
Right.
And when he hits that, I guess there's no music going on there, but isn't there music when he touches, he reaches out and he touches the wall?
It's playing then when he's figuring it out, making his decision, what's happening here.
And you see his shadow coming up the wall and his hand moves towards it and touches it. And then, that's when it's this aha moment. I'm not crazy. This world is revolving around me. And then you see him basically raging against his cage. He's throwing his body up against the wall. And it's
so good.
It's so powerful to see this man who's at his wit's end and just realizing that everything in his life has been a farce, has been fake, and now he needs to figure out how is he going to get out?
Like Pete said,
which is
except
the
for
type
his
of scene.
true feelings for the one girl he met who liked him back for real, which is his thing that he needs to try to find when he gets out.
Yeah.
And that scene you just described, that is the scene that you typically see in Oscar nominations. Like when you're watching this is the clip that they would show if he weren't Jim Carrey in the Truman Show, and this is the clip that it would be.
I tend to think, like Brad said, he wasn't nominated. I don't think critics knew what to make of him, because he was the slapstick, over the top comedy guy.
But that shouldn't matter.
he comes out and puts together this performance, and I think people just looked at it and went, "What?" Like it's Jim Carrey.
Well, and then the
So
best
much
thing,
the
though,
better, though, because if he's
Yeah.
showing his range by
Yeah.
doing that, then
yeah,
Right.
actually, I kind of
versatility as an
disagree with
actor.
that too. I feel like a lot of times that first big role where a guy steps out and does that, that's the one that gets nominated because you get. That's why it just doesn't make sense. But then the best thing is whether he got the nod or not, he went on to back it up and prove it. He did so many great other movies and dramatic roles after this. This guy is just awesome, but
Right.
He could have been nominated for Dumb and Dumber for all I care, because who else could play a role that perfectly like he did?
Right.
Comedians need to get credit.
I completely agree.
I love, so you brought up like the map and everybody's already done it and the stuff like that. Another little of the background stuff that I love to look at every day he buys the paper. And did you notice like the headlines? One of the headlines is Sea Haven voted planet's best town.
Right.
And then there's another one that says, who needs Europe?
Right.
A whole other story, not in the same one. And it's just the little things like that. If you miss them, but if you see them, they're hilarious, and just everything is built around him to keep him there. Like you have no reason to go anywhere else. This is the perfect place.
Well, and then the other thing I love is the ad placement. How those twin brothers always shove him up against a billboard every morning on his way to work, and then his wife is doing the coffee, advertisement while she's talking to him, or the kitchen utensil advertisement, and they're like, zoom in on her when she's doing her little deal. And I love that ad placement stuff. It's so hilarious how they work that into the show.
I liked so if we go back to the true love interest, Lauren, Sylvia, I think the whole scene where they meet is so sweet. And again, that's great acting too by both of them. They're perfect together. But she says, "Come and find me," as she's getting taken away, and the dad says, "We're moving to Fiji." And so then you learn why he likes Fiji so much. Because at first it's like, why Fiji? How does he know about Fiji? But then we learn that, and we see these clips throughout the whole movie of audience people watching him, and the scenes where she's watching him, I just love, because again, it's kind of like, well, it's not the same, but like in Gone Girl when she's watching Ben Affleck on TV and how she's
a little different,
captivated by him. And she still just thinks he's great, and she's done what she can to try to help him, but there's too much powerful stuff working against her.
And and the other thing too is the scenes where he's piecing together magazine pictures that basically he's trying to recollect what she looks like, because he's got no pictures of her, but her face is so ingrained in his mind that he's able to go through these magazines, cut out like, okay, this woman has eyes kind of like her, and this one has the mouth and everything, and pieces it together, and it looks just like her in the end.
Yeah.
More about the acting, and you talked about the scene where the Oscar scene they should have showed Pete, but there's a part where he's starting to figure out where he does so much without even speaking. Like when things start to get weird and he stops to traffic and he holds his hand up and he's looking around and just wondering, and you just see him like, what's going on in his mind? Like he obviously this is screwed up, and he's starting to catch on, and then he runs away and hits that guy with a briefcase to see with the reaction. Yeah. So it's not even just like great, speaking and whatever. He does it all, and he does so much without speaking. And this is a guy who you think of all he can do is scream and yell, and so
right.
I did want to touch on two of my favorite parts of this movie at the end, when they're going through and they're trying to figure out where he's at. One of my favorite lines is when Christoph says, "Cue the sun." I just get chills every time I hear that line, because he's, God in this universe. And it's like, okay, we need light. All right, where's the sun? Let's bring it up.
And it's 4 in the morning.
What's that?
It's 4 a.m. So they're like, question, you can't do that. But
right, exactly. But he can. And then I also love the scene where they show everybody in first positions. Yeah. This whole town standing perfectly still. Like, people are like in a walking motion, just standing there perfect, and everybody's just ready to continue this farce. I thought that was just a great shot.
I love too the end there, just the imagery when he's walking. Once he realizes he can leave, and it's just that big shot of him walking against the blue wall and the staircase. That is such a cool,
Mhm.
you know. And the director was nominated too. That is such a cool visual of the movie right there. I just love that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so too.
Here I have another
Oh,
question. I'm looking at my
okay.
notes, and you guys have pretty much everything that I haven't said. You guys have totally hit on what I wrote down. But at the end, when Kristoff is going crazy trying to get him to stay, it's like, who would watch this anymore once he knows? What does Kristoff
Yeah.
think he's gonna get out of this? It shows just the panic and he
he's
has
desperate
no
to keep it
life, and
going.
he's desperate because the show is done. The second he knows it's done, nobody's gonna watch it, and he should realize that. But he's just hanging on by a
Well,
desperation.
what I was thinking is, how much money does he have sunk into this? I mean, he built this whole dome and everything. Like, how many years does he have to get his investment back out of it, right?
I never
I
thought
was-
he actually owned the
Well, the
set.
studio,
I think
you
he's
know.
just the director of the.
Yeah,
the
because
producer of the
he was
show.
adopted not by Kristoff, but by the actual studio.
By the corporation.
By the- yeah, by
Okay,
the
that's true.
corporation,
That's
yeah.
true.
So
Here's
they've
one
got
thing
all
that
the money.
that kind of confused me, and I'm guessing it's in there for more of the audience to make it more realistic. But as Pete said, people accept the reality that's presented to them.
Mhm.
I thought it was a little weird that they made the world, the real world, known to him. Like, you know what
Like
I'm saying?
teaching
Like,
him about Fiji and about, or like
No.
about different parts, or Europe,
Right.
or whatever.
like, why couldn't they make his world that much smaller so that he
Well,
wouldn't be looking to explore? But
that's
the only thing I can come
great
up with
point.
is
I
because
thought
then
about that too, but I
is-
think that throughout they wanted to make it as real as possible. And if they're showing every moment of his life, the viewer at home wants to see this kid learning
Yeah.
about
sure.
getting a true education.
So that's
Yeah,
for
it's
the
for the
audience's
viewers.
benefit more
Yep.
more so than
Yeah,
Truman.
because why
Yeah.
couldn't you say this is like, you know, the biodome and just say this is all there is. This is where you
Mhm.
live and this is where we all are. But that's not, they're right. That's not as interesting to the audience, and it takes away the reality.
Sure.
What if we're all in a biodome and this is it? This is just somebody's, we're all on TV, and I don't know.
Right then.
This movie
Uh,
has two of the greatest walk-off lines ever, too. So when he gets to the top of the stairs and it looks like you're not quite 100% sure what he's going to do, and Kristoff kind of looks like he thinks he's got him, and he just says, "Good afternoon, good evening, and good night." And then the bow. The bow.
The bow is
It's
outstanding.
Yeah,
so
yeah, and it's a
awesome.
great finale to
And
the
you
show, and
you
that's
get chills and you cheer.
Mhm.
But then I love, that's not the end. The transmission goes off, and you know everybody's been involved in this for so long, and the two guys just look at each other. What else is on?
Where's the TV guide? Like, yeah.
That's
They
so
brush it
funny,
off.
and just shows our attention spans and how you could be so wrapped up in it, and then it's like, okay, let's find something else to watch. Big deal, and they're
Right.
over it just like that. And that's so good.
What I thought was crazy too was how, and I guess it's not crazy. Corporations do this all the time, but you can buy everything that you see on TV. You can buy the Truman house. You
It's
can
kinda
buy
like,
Truman
Wheel of Fortune.
toys. Yeah.
By the way, for the listener, I just want to say Brad is sitting in front of the Brady Bunch house right now as his background. So you could buy that even if you wanted. Very
Sure.
similar. Good
I would.
tie-in.
Do you think, just we're at the end, do you think, were you surprised that in the movie they don't show him and Sylvia like getting together? Do you think that,
I'm glad they did.
okay? How
I
come?
like her running down the steps, throwing her jacket on.
Oh, yeah, you do see that. That's
and
awesome. That's part of
running
the cheering.
out the door to get to that dome as fast as she can.
You're right. I almost forgot about that part because I mean, obviously they're going to get together, but that clearly shows where they're both headed and that they will meet, and we don't need to see it then. So that's great.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
think-
great because we don't need to see it because we've seen everything else, and Truman finally gets something to himself.
There you
That's
go.
right.
Wow.
That's deep.
What a good wrap on that movie. So let's dive into our draft, shall we?
Yes.
So we are going to be drafting tonight our top 5 Jim Carrey credits. This could be music, movies, TVs, and more.
So mostly movies, but he's been in other stuff. And
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a
as we've
couple of other
mentioned,
things on mine.
this guy is great, and so we're going to give him his credit and draft it
Yeah.
up.
Absolutely. And with this being my episode, I get the number one pick. And with that, I will select Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, you didn't take the Truman Show.
If that's not everybody's
did.
number one
There's-
pick, I'm quitting
I
this
mean,
podcast.
Dumb and
Well,
Dumber is
earlier
one of my
Pete said
favorites.
this was his best movie, so I thought he would pick it.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between best and
Right.
like your own favorite.
Yeah.
You
So,
know, and
ju-
we have so many memories of Dumb and Dumber as compared to this movie. So
Just
I-
a quick note that when this movie came out on IMDb, it's listed with a rating of 8.2. This is the highest rated movie to that point. Even though he had some, major films,
Yeah.
this was the best one to the point.
Well, I will tell you, Gifford, I had the Truman Show number 1.
All right, I'll see you guys later.
But I have Dumb and Dumber 2, and really, I mean, it's what I'm in the mood for. I mean, I put the Truman Show 1 because I think it's his best work, and I could watch it like all after what I was wondering. We watched it like 3 years ago, and during the COVID with our kids, and so I was wondering if I was going to watch it again, if I'd really. I mean, it's been a few years, but still, like, would I remember it well? So would I love it as much? And I asked Kim if she wanted to watch it, and I was kind of surprised she did. And we both were just at the end. It was just great. And so I can watch it over and over. But I can watch Dumb and Dumber every day as well. And therefore, I will pick The Truman Show.
All right.
Because you already took Dumb and Dumber.
Excellent. Well, those are the top two with a bullet. I mean,
yeah.
That's 1 and 1A.
I mean,
So-
I do have another. Well, there's a lot of good ones coming here. And
There
one,
are.
one in particular that is similar to The Truman Show. But
I'm
those are the
gonna
top
take.
two.
I'm gonna take a movie that introduced me to Jim Carrey.
Yes.
I'm gonna take Ace Ventura.
Which we watched at your house.
We sure did.
Introduced
One of
all
the
us.
times.
I am going to take.
That's my number 3, by the way. We're right on track here.
There are two that I'm debating between here, but I'm going to take Bruce Almighty.
I love that movie too.
hmm
That seems like one that's kind of fallen under the radar for him when it comes to the comedies, because that one is so funny.
It's really good.
Because it wasn't
really
a 90s
great.
one. It feels like,
Right.
Maybe people almost forgot about him because he had done so many other like good movies too in that time.
Highlight for me in that is Steve Carell
Yeah.
when he can't speak and he's oh my God, I cry every time I watch that. Laugh so hard.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see how the votes go here, because I'm going to take another one similar to The Truman Show. Some people would say this is his best movie ever, and it's a great one. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind
Yep.
with Kate Winslet.
Very good.
Oh boy.
And my top
Gifford,
5
over
are
to
now
you.
done.
Yeah, I'm caught between two. You know what? I'm gonna take Man on the Moon.
All right.
Yeah, I thought he was outstanding in that. He maybe took it a little far with the method acting, becoming Andy there, but great role.
And with that, I'm going to go with Liar Liar.
Yeah, that was the other one. I was caught between Liar Liar, Man on the Moon.
I really want to squeeze him.
Mama.
I came across that scene today on Facebook and I watched it. It was great.
And speaking of that scene, Teo Penglis acted with her, Krista, whatever her. She was
Allen?
Billy on
right, she was
Krista Allen, a Billy from the second Billy from Days of Our Lives.
Yep.
Bringing it all together. Okay, I'm not sure if I want to go with next on my list here. Well, I'm going to pick the thing that really introduced me to Jim Carrey, and that's In Living Color.
Yeah, that was my next pick. Shoot.
Yeah. Specifically, I had Fire Marshal Bill listed on
Yeah,
there.
but I mean that show was out. We were in high school. I watched it almost every week, and there was a lot of things he did that were great. You knew this guy was great,
Right.
Yep.
and he was the token,
Token white guy.
just like SNL had.
All right, I'm gonna go with me. myself, and Irene.
Okay, good pick.
Yep.
All right, and I will go with his SNL appearances. In particular,
Okay,
the
which
skit
one?
that I have is the lifeguard sketch.
That's the
Lifeguard
exact
on
thing I have
Duty
written down.
with Will Ferrell. Those two, and
Yep.
Will Ferrell is a straight man in that one.
And I almost picked that. That was my next one on my list, actually, but I went with The Living Color because of the bigger body of work. But I have the lifeguard written down. And then also, I thought he didn't last long, and some people didn't like it. I love the way he played Biden. At least he gave Biden something interesting to watch when he came back for that. That was great. Oh, it's my turn.
Yes, sir.
Next on my list, here's another movie that was really funny that came out later on. Yes Man.
All right. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Are you serious? Oh, you'd like it.
Yeah.
It's funny. Kim laughs
Okay,
at that.
man. All right.
She's hard to please in the comedies.
I am going to go with another movie from 1994. I'm going to take The Mask. A good vehicle for him.
All right, this is my last pick. It's a little bit of a stretch, but it is what's next on my list. I'm going with Cable Guy.
There you go. I'm sure there's a lot of people that, you know what, Pete, that is a number 5. Might get you the win here.
There you go.
You start with Dumb and Dumber and end with the Cable Guy. That's pretty phenomenal.
Pete probably gets this one. Unless people like those serious movies like that I picked.
I'd bet. No, they don't. Do you know our audience?
I know.
You
That's
haven't
the
won
problem.
a single vote yet.
Do you know our
culture out
audience?
there.
Because I'd like to meet them. That'd be awesome.
Gifford's the one that's always picking the goofball shit, and you're picking the serious stuff. And who's the one that always wins? Gifford.
All right, my last pick is another movie from the 2000s that I thought was quite funny, with Téa Leoni, Fun with Dick and Jane. I didn't get the 90s ones, but I got his more recent funny ones.
Never saw that one either.
I thought you had. I thought we talked about it before.
I don't remember watching that one.
Well, you should really watch both because you'd like them.
Mr. Irrelevant here. I'm going with the incredible Burt Wonderstone. He's the Chris Angel-esque character in.
Yeah, I saw that once. I don't really
plays
remember
it quite
anything
well.
about it. Pete, what else do you have?
I did have The Mask, but that was okay. The Grinch, I don't even like The Grinch that much.
Leave that. Oh, I'm glad nobody picked that.
And Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, which was all right. So I'm glad I got the 5 that I did.
I got I mentioned Simon Birch 2 weeks ago.
Yes, you did.
Gifford, you helped remind me of that one. He has a nice little role there. And that's from the 90s. That was like not a serious. He doesn't have a big role. He's just the adult version, but still he's playing totally straight.
Mm-hmm.
The Majestic was one of his other ones that was like a serious movie. That's one that I thought I was just going to fall in love with, and I watched it once and didn't. It was okay.
Never seen it. Yeah, I've never watched it.
It didn't live up to the other ones like the Truman Show. Mr. Popper's Penguins wasn't bad. We went to that with our kids when it came out. It was actually pretty good. He did one with Ewan McGregor. I Love You, Philip Morris. That's a pretty funny movie and a little crazy. They're I can't remember the whole story, but they're gay and it's out there. He was in Anchorman 2. He was one of the
CBS anchor, I think.
Together. I did put Batman Forever on here because when he got cast as the Riddler, it was like seemed like perfect casting.
That is the perfect casting.
And that movie kind of fell apart,
terrible
but
movie.
I don't think it was his fault. And that's it. Everything else has been named.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously other credits, but I didn't have any others down. You guys
don't
them
either?
all.
All right. Hey, Gifford, you know what band I would like to watch 24 hours a day for 30 years?
Preacher Row.
That's right. You got it
Right.
right again. Well done,
Excellent.
man.
Would you try
Hey.
to drown them?
Gifford, why don't you do the sign off? Good
Oh,
morning. And in
if
case
I don't see
you,
you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
There you go.
Bye.
There you go.
to fear. No one's gonna comfort me. Sorry for what I have done. Sorry that your son is gone. 7 steps and it will be my last. And start to me on my back. I turn and I look to you. I'm scared but there's nothing I can do.